Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Or late evening, actually. Early evening. Hope everyone's enjoying their day and enjoyed their week thus far. Just give me a second so I can finish sharing these links. Quite get started on time. It takes me so long to get everything posted where it needs to be so I can share these live streams multiple places at once. But this is a topic I've been wanting to talk about for quite a little bit. Second, let me check my volume, make sure it's working. Second, let me check my volume, make sure it's working. All right. Yeah, with all the recent events that we've had taken place this year, last year, all the focus has been on safety. All the talk about how dangerous our school systems have become. They only want to focus on one issue, one event. I don't know how many out there subscribe to Project Veritas and watch what they've released about the education systems here in the United States. I thought it was funny because I've been working on, doing my own research prior to this, for that coming out, and I've always had some issues with certain things, but they broke it down quite good, gave you an in-depth, look at some of the, I mean, wow, some of the stuff that actually goes on in the school system, and we're talking about this. I'm going to get into a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to get into, you know, the aspects of what's all going into the school system. I'm also going to talk about my opinions and views on the union. Also focus on teachers that are well underpaid, and also get into the school systems themselves, how they're not funded the way they should. There's so many issues when we start looking into the school system. I'm just not talking about our public, private, K through ninth grade. I'm also going to talk about college systems as well, because it is the state of the education that our children are supposed to be receiving, and our young adults are supposed to be receiving. And there seems to be a problem with how everything is going about. I mean, we all know stories. We hear certain subjects being taught in school that shouldn't be taught in school. So I don't know if right now this might be more than one part. We'll try to keep to the hour and a half mark that I've been seem to be on. But I want to touch on this. It's something that's kind of been bothering me for a little while. And I think many of you out there have the same general feeling when it comes to this topic. It's funny that it doesn't, what we're going to talk about don't get covered. The only thing they want to talk about is the gun violence. They don't want to talk about countless cases. I mean, it seems like every week there's one or two cases now of sexual misconduct with a teacher and a student, violence to a student, a teacher. And before any too far. I want to make it clearly understood that I'm not against teachers. Teachers have probably a very up there my top 5 that I have high respect for what they do. But as you guys know, as I talked about, every group of people, every system, every organization, no matter what label you want to use, has its bad apples. And unfortunately, as we see with a lot of these systems, bad apples keep getting protected. And I think Project Veritas did an awesome job of exposing that, and exposing how the union protects these teachers. I remember a case 3 or 4 years ago in Wisconsin, sex offender that was a teacher. They couldn't fire him because it would violate the union policy. But yet, as a sex offender, he's not supposed to be, or depends on the state, I guess, but in most states, you're not supposed to be in so many miles of the school, regardless of what your case is. Now, it's my understanding and interpretation of it. But yet, this person was working in this school, and they couldn't remove him from the school. They just, okay, we're just going to pay you to sit in this break room so you're away from the students. But the union, teachers union, protected him and battled for him, and that shouldn't be the case. I mean, here in Toledo, we had an issue with sexual misconduct between a teacher and a student. Well, this teacher got removed from the school and later became a board member of the school. They got to a point so ridiculous that they were trying to prevent people coming in there and talking about it. They had to move the venue of where the school board meeting would meet so the teacher could actually participate, or school board member, ex-teacher, could participate. And it went on and on. It drug out for almost 2 years now. Well, finally, they got rid of him, and he ended up going to court and was charged as a sex offender. They found him guilty for the conduct that, the school board was trying to protect him. So, well, that didn't. There's no proof it happened. That's a student and a bunch of parents that are making stuff up. But yet it wasn't, come to find out when it came to court. We have this stuff happening in our schools. Like I said, it amazes me that for the last 2 months, I've been following cases that keep coming up from various states. Nobody wants to talk about it, but they want to focus on gun issues. And I have a problem with that. And we have people that are supposed to be teachers, that's supposed to be mentors, role models. They're supposed to be teaching our students, but we keep seeing these cases and cases. Maybe you need to back off talking about gun crime, which happens. How often? I'm not defending it by no means or putting less meaning on it, but how often does that happen? Yet we have case upon case upon case upon case of sexual misconduct or violence to a teacher smacks a kid. And I'm not talking about, bloodies him up or roughs him up or her up. Today I was scrolling on Twitter, seeing they were talking about how homeschooling has almost doubled in the past year. Of course, they want to use the scenario of because of the gun violence. They don't want to use the truth. I mean, that's part of it. But the whole truth is our education system has been left for shambles. I mean, me and a friend, we were talking, because he knows this teacher. This teacher went to a rally they had in North Carolina to get better pay for the teachers. I mean, this teacher just finished her master's degree to teach, to educate children. She can go overseas and get paid almost 4 times as much to teach students than what they'll pay her here. They were trying to get a union established in North Carolina for the teachers, so the teachers could get better pay. Well, and as me and him was talking about, he started talking about how, you know, he's got his kids going to school. They had to buy chairs and stuff for the students in the classroom because the school didn't have the funding to have enough chairs for all the students. How messed up is that? There's so many issues when it comes to our state of our education and school systems. I can see why. I mean, I recommend people homeschool their kids. Now, I remember growing up, they would always talk about try to get past levies and stuff because schools need more funding. Then they started going on the tactic, okay, if you guys don't vote to pass this levy, we're going to strip the sports systems. We're going to strip the music, art class, FFA, OA, shop classes. Try to force people to pass this levy so they can get more money. The funny thing is, guys, growing up, I played sports, school sports, but the way we did it, we always did fundraisers, whether it be potluck dinners. During the summer, we do car washes and stuff, and all that money went into our sports programs, our music programs, and people would donate. Some schools in my area was pay to play. You pay a certain amount of money that covered your equipment and stuff, and you still had to make the academics, of course, which I'm all for. You should have good grades to play sports. It's not a cop-out. I'm just going to barely get by and rely on a scholarship in sports. It shouldn't be that way. There's nothing wrong with the scholarships, but you should have education. But eventually they started taking away all that stuff. I said, we're no longer going to be paid to play. We're no longer promote students doing fundraisers for the school. Which in turn, when they pulled that, we pulled a walkout. So walkouts aren't good, guys. Yes, they might help to orchestrate the one that school system. Because, it was unfair to us. We take time out of our summers to, and it taught you the value of work, the value of giving back to the community. And we argued those points. But the point was, the school board, well, it's not enough. We need, we need more money. As always, we need more money for textbooks, for rebuilding. And, the whole time we was in school, I watched, where's that money go? Honestly. I mean, yes, our school eventually built on, so some of that levy increase did go to rebuilding the school, upgrading the school, but this was in the 90s, so it wasn't that big of an upgrade, but it was. And they needed the money for that. Now you've seen where the money went. You understood. Better classrooms, which turned out it wasn't better because now with the new school building that they built onto it, our class size doubled. Where before it was smaller, but to save room, they have more things. Train, they added more students to the class instead of having two separate teachers or two separate times for a class. That's why I said I'm always big fan of history. When you start to look and go back and reflect on things, how they were, how they are today. A bunch of, for my generation, we joke around. And it's not really a joke. We joke around about, we were the last generation, which wasn't true. My sister's generation was the last generation to be taught real history, real education. And we've seen that as you step back and watch. We've seen how the textbooks have changed. We've seen how technology is integrated into school systems. We've seen the huge impact of what Common Core has done. It's been interesting. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't realize I had killed my cam. My mouse is kind of almost dead, so I had to invert my clicking buttons because my one is just shot. The other one isn't too far from it. So it's been making things a real pain doing anything here lately. So I can afford another mouse. I'm just gonna make do with what I got. But, I do recommend for those who haven't. I know a lot of people are not a fan of Project Wordpress. Check out the series that they've done on the education system. It'll open your eyes to what hasn't been said. And they were working on that since last year. They were just dealing with some court cases in Michigan. They were school boards and teachers unions were trying to stop them from publishing what they haven't discovered. They finally won the case and was able to publish all of it. I mean, it's not for me. It wasn't that eye opening because, like I said, I've been researching this, investigating this a bit, but it brought a new light to things, how they don't get talked about. As like I said, like the last 2 months, it seems like 1 to 2 cases almost every week are being reported of sexual violence, sexual assault, sexual misconduct, teacher and student. Then you start hearing about the cases like the one I described in Toledo and Wisconsin, how this teachers union protects them, or how school systems will protect them. School boards won't remove a person from the school board because of what he did in another school system. Now, these are issues that have become more to me. I want to make more people aware because our kids' education is important. For me, education today just shouldn't just take place in the school. It needs to continue into the home, which is hard in this day and age. And it's designed that way. The whole system's been designed this way to get you less involved with what's going on. That way they can educate children the way they deem is necessary. Which in many cases, when you start looking into it, it goes completely against how you want your children raised. You know? And we see it. We see it with these younger generations now. We see how the education system has changed, how things that we considered moral, or rephrase, the things that we would consider immoral, that we would want our children being taught at such young age, being taught to them. Where some of that education is not supposed to be taught in the school system at all. It's on to their parents. Now we are dealing with transgender, where it's being talked about in schools. We're just dealing with transvestites reading kids at a young, influential age. 7, 8 years old, where they shouldn't even be introduced to that type of stuff. But it falls under, and I've talked about this in previous videos, I was talking about diversity, the diversity kick. I'm not a parent. I don't have kids. But I do know this. I do understand many things when it comes to raising children, raising kids. At certain ages, they're more susceptible to learning certain things. That's been scientifically proven. At certain ages, you want to get them into learning certain other languages because they're at that stage where they can pick that up more, interpret it more. And it goes with how science has learned these things. They've taught teachers how to use these tools. That's how they've introduced some of that aspects into the Common Core. In a sense, it's kind of programming and brainwashing. Programming our children at those particular age levels where they are most susceptible to influence. We've gotten away from the basic teachings of fundamental education. We've got more into psychological education, where they know these certain age brackets, they know how to introduce these things where the children are more susceptible. And they'll use terms like uniformity, diversity. While they're talking about gun debate, the gun control stuff, at such ages, they're not teaching our children fundamental education. They're not teaching our children real history. Because if they were being taught real history, they would understand why we have a Constitution, a Bill of Rights. They will understand how government works, how each legislation branch works. They will understand that we do bad things. When I was growing up, we did the Pledge of Allegiance. We also had 5 minutes set aside at the beginning of the school day, a moment of silence for those that chose to pray and whatnot. Most of you know I'm not a Christian. I never had a problem with that. I actually respected that. I also respected Pledge of Allegiance. Well, they got the Supreme Court rule. Here's why the Pledge of Allegiance isn't done in the schools anymore, legally. Because it has the word God in it. That was how they attacked that. But yet we've come across last year, and I know few people that have talked about this, few parents have talked about this, how they've pushed teaching one particular form of religion. That's not supposed to be. You know, they understand these tactics at certain ages, when to push these things. Do I blame the teachers? No. The teachers are following curriculum that is given to them to teach by. What happens is those that try to speak out against it or refuse to teach that type of curriculum are fired. They find it hard to find positions to teach, and it goes on their record. Or they're part of a union. States, there is no union. Like North Carolina, there is no teachers union. I'm kind of, when it comes to unions, I have my beefs. My one beef is, as I've stated, they protect those that should not be protected, always. You know, you have this crafty worker that couldn't make it anywhere else, but he managed to make it in. Now he's protected. There's always been the issues. There's some good things with the union, but there's just as many bad things. It's one of those things we could argue the next 10 years and probably never get a solution for it. Because, yes, there's that many good things, but there's that many bad things. And when it comes to things like this, there's always going to be people that are going to manipulate and abuse the system. Unfortunately, that manipulation and abuse comes, in this particular case, at the expense of our children, our young adults. I think most people don't understand. We just remembered here past couple months what happened here in Ohio at Wright State. Just for most people, it's forgotten about it. But most people don't understand the changes that came about from that, when the National Guard came on and shot people on college campus. That's why today we have college campuses that have their own police, their own security. Where we see cases of rape and stuff not getting reported to the police because it's done internally. Because and that's the abusive part of that system. Because we never want to see what happened at Kent State ever happen again. And what their solution was to create their own community police system and their campuses that is separate, so it's private. Just like in most areas, if you live around the college, like me and my friends also talk about this. You look at the crime statistics for the town of Boone, you don't actually get the accurate number because they don't add in the private police of out state crime statistics from there. They do not add that into the town. When you add that in, the numbers change drastically. Like I said, it has become a system that has kind of been abused. And we've seen cases of it. We've seen cases how in our colleges that you practice free speech goes against the ideology or philosophy of that college, will be expelled, you'll be targeted, harassed. And we've seen so much when it comes to our education system. But we don't talk about these things. don't talk about real issues and problems. You know, Common Core is a huge problem. We've got states that make it so hard to be able to homeschool your kids. They don't want that type of curriculum. It doesn't meet the agenda of what Common Core stands for. So we get caught in the states trying to, once more, take away more of your freedoms as a parent, trying to dictate what you have to teach your kids, what the status quo is. A lot of the problems we're seeing with the younger generations because how they've been taught in the school system. When it comes to sexuality preferences and that shouldn't even be taught in the school system. The school system is for education, higher learning, not introducing sexual identity, not promoting sex. Those are things that, as the children get older, parents will discuss with them. As they get even older, become young adults, they'll explore those things on their own. Not meant for a school system to teach. What do you do when your child walks up to you and asks you, I think I may be I might be a transgender, and starts talking about terms that are more adult terms that a 13-year-old, 10-year-old should not have. And yes, I'm talking about some people that I know that have just experienced this recently. It's like, where did you hear that? In the school. Well, I'll tell you what the one parent's answer was to that. That was the end of that school. She started homeschooling her children. But the problem is, not everybody's lucky enough to have one parent in the house. One parent that can actually sit there. What'd you learn today? Go over their work, help them with their homework, see what's in their textbooks. In some cases, we found out that the kids are no longer allowed to bring their textbooks home. And you wonder, why is that? But don't they want you to see in the textbook? A lot of schools are going more digital, where all the textbooks and education stuff, curriculum stuff is put on their iPads. Do you really know what your children are being taught inside the school systems that they're in? And I'm not saying this is every school system, because it's not. You can still find school systems out there that don't teach Common Core. But they still all have their issues. Our school systems are so underfunded, that's not even funny. We have still in place school systems where our children don't get meals at school that are healthy meals. In so many cases, both parents are working. As much as we like to say things have changed, we're still living in a time of age where it still takes two people working to make ends meet. When both parents are working, there's sacrifices that are being made. Unfortunately, those sacrifices happen to be us paying attention to what our kids are learning in school. Because many of us that are my age or older, or in their mid-30s, we never had to worry about that. We never, it was always listen to your teachers. It's not like that anymore. Now it should be, you should be teaching your kids to question everything your teacher says. Maybe not out loud. Now it's more important that we instill communication with our children. Teach our children to talk about these things. What have you been learning? You know, and in a sense, our children need a form of education inside the homes to fill in the gaps that they're not being taught in the school system. This is one of those subjects where, well, what is the right answer? I don't think that it becomes so broad that there is really right answers. I mean, one of the top, probably the top of my list would be removing Common Core. Better pay for the teachers. That's a lot of issues. More funding for the schools instead of having to rely on parents to notice there's not enough chairs here for all the students. Why isn't that? And they ask, we're out of school budget, where the parents have to come in and buy chairs for the students. That's, I mean, my friend told me that I about lost it. I mean, is that the state of our education system today? You know, because you got to realize, you know, I'm not married, single, don't have kids, haven't had any, ever had kids. So those are aspects that, like, wow, because I haven't experienced that part of my life. You know, I'm still, you know, me, I hear what they say, talk with them, watch, you know, I learn. It's like, wow, and you don't realize how bad situations have become. And when you start seeing these articles pop up, you try to share them as much as possible, but we know how that whole sharing system works on these platforms. Some people get notifications, and most, you know, you got more than 100 followers, your feeds can get a little bit where it takes a little bit to scroll down, so you're missing things, which is another design system, another design in the system to keep people from seeing everything. These are important issues. Why, this day and age, do we still have teachers having sex with underage kids? Why do we have a teachers union that will protect people like that? There should be no form of protection for that. I mean, yes, I agree. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty. But at the same time, when you are known, I mean, let me go back to the case in Wisconsin, the case here in Toledo, Ohio. It was already known. In the one case, dude was a convicted sex offender, but yet they still protect him. And that is a very flawed system. Oh, we don't want to be sued if we fire him. Well, for one, you shouldn't even have to worry about that because dude should be arrested for being within 200 yards of the school. He violated that. But no, so many loopholes in our system. I mean, don't worry. Legal. I'm going to talk legal systems in the coming weeks as well. But you know, and for many cases, it goes back to what I've seen in that homeschooling. How it's on the rise. People trying to find homeschooling for their children. Well, here's the drawback to that little system. We still live in a day and age where, like, guess what? Yeah, that's right. Both parents work. And it takes somebody there at the house monitoring to make sure your child is doing their work. And now you've pulled them out of school. So now you need somebody there. So now you're going to pick up an extra fee of a babysitter and whatnot. See how the system is designed so you still have so little say. What are you going to sacrifice to homeschool your children? Yeah. But yet, they talk about school safety, how unsafe the schools are. And you start hearing listening to what undercover reporters from Project Veritas uncovered. It's enough. In my case, it was enough to piss me off, turn the computer off, and go outside and cool off for about 2 hours. And hearing what some of those teacher union representatives had to say. But yet, it's gotten very little attention. I guess it's because they're not going after fake news organizations that, uh, you know, problem with the times we live in, everybody's so judgmental. Oh, it's Project Veritas, who cares? Right? I think that's a lot of people's mentality. Guess what? People see that in us. Our kids see that. They see that mentality. They learn that from us. We're just as much as educators as are the school systems that we send them to. But, for me, it's like, how in 2018 are we still having these issues? How are they still getting swept under the rug and ignored? How dare a school system talk about safety and promote kids to go protest when they're not even teaching them real history, let alone they have teachers working there that are being investigated for various things. I mean, from beating a kid, sexual harassment to sexual assault, sexual misconduct. I mean, we come up with so many labels for something that just shouldn't be. Period. Then we start seeing how underfunded these schools are. The price, how a lot of schools, because they need to switch over to catch up with the advancement in technology. It's even more of a burden on the school systems. Further puts them in debt to where they need to raise and constantly raise the levies. In some cases, well, if you're not going to teach Common Core, we're not going to give you the funding. We're not going to pay teachers. I mean, one teacher I was talking about, 35,000 a year as a full-time student or a full-time teacher. 35,000 a year. I know people that work in restaurants that make twice that. So something to think about. A person who works in a restaurant makes 60,000 a year, where teachers only get 35,000 a year. How's that? These are the ones that are supposed to be our educators. These are the ones that are supposed to teach our kids skills. But yet they're so underpaid, so undervalued. And they get undervalued because, as much the focus has been on all the bad apples, you know, all the bad policies that's been introduced, all the bad legal stuff that's been introduced. And what comes even worse is the fact that we're dealing with since the 90s, to where the parents' right to have a say in things has been stripped and stripped and stripped. I was never a fan of corporal punishment, but yes, I did go to school in the 80s too, so yes, corporal punishment was a thing for a little while. And then we see, the psychological impact. And to me, that's a big issue because we're sending our kids to school to be educated, not indoctrinated, brainwashed, psychologically manipulated. But yet, that's what's happening through programs such as Common Core. Through vision, where the teacher brings in their personal political preferences instead of being neutral. You know, brings us to question, what can we do to bring about change? What can we do to bring awareness to many of these issues? Well, I guess, like most cases, it starts at the home, and from the home, the community. It starts with us paying attention to what our children being taught. When we don't agree with something, get with the community, bring it up to our community members, and start addressing these issues as a community. It's like, no, you're not going to be teaching our kids at this age about transgender, about diversity. You're not going to be manipulating our children. We send our children to school to be educated, how to be something successful in life. We got colleges that are giving out degrees in some of the stupidest things that have no real meaning or value in any occupation that you'll ever have here in the United States or anywhere in the world. We have a system that is so broken, that needs so much attention. The only time it gets attention is when something bad happens. And when that bad thing happens, the only thing they focus on, they want you to know about, is that bad thing. Let's ban the Second Amendment. Let's take people's guns rights away. Let's not address the real issues that's plaguing our education system. Let's not address the underpaid teachers, the underfunded school. Let's not address teacher violence on students. Let's not address sexual misconduct, sexual assault, rape. Those things, no, that don't happen. Our schools are safe. In many cases, probably a lot of the schools are. But unfortunately, when you start seeing report after report, sometimes two a week, we have a problem. And that's the ones that we hear about. So we all know how that system works. It'll become to where they try to put all the blame on the child, or young teenager, they'll start, in a sense, bullying or stuff to another school system under wraps so it doesn't get out public. How many unreported cases every year that go unnoticed because it goes unreported, or because teacher's rep doesn't report it to report it or do the files the paperwork on it, which was another thing that was uncovered in the Project Veritas series they did. How they just wouldn't even report it, wouldn't even write paperwork on it. And in many of the cases that they do, oh, it's just a verbal reprimand or suspension for a couple of weeks, which shows yet one more flaw when it comes to teachers' unions. I mean, the benefit of the teachers' union is a little bit better pay, but they're still, at this day and age, they're still underpaid no matter if they have a union or not. Maybe it is that people forget that our children are supposed to be the future. It's our future. They'll be our future representatives, our future politicians, our future teachers, skilled tradesmen, women, businessmen, women, labor and production. We're not focusing on those things. We rather focus on, oh, we need to teach them about transgender at age 8, 9, 7. In some cases, even being talked about and taught in preschool, which it should never be discussed in that. It comes to a point where we really need to start questioning the state of our education, the state of our school systems. It's not, like I said, at the local level, the private, public, even the college level. I mean, the college level is a whole nother can of worms when you start diving into it, understanding the changes that were made after Kent State, how abusive, how that system's become abused, how now that prestigious colleges that were so prestigious now have more of a political identity where they want to control types of speech. And they understand that even young adults being manipulated, especially if they come through the Common Core system, psychological programming and indoctrination. They're easily incredible to print things on. I understand this topic. It probably is not going to be liked by many people. Most people are probably not even going to watch this one. And I think I understand. I think I get it. Like I said, it's kind of hard to put myself in those shoes because I don't have to. But at the same point, I get it because trying to put myself in a person's shoes like that, I understand. He's like, wow, this is a bad parent. I didn't pay attention to what's going on. We start blaming ourselves. I want to stop you right there. Don't blame yourself for something that's been taken out of your control. That's not what this whole this whole video is about. It's about, okay, I'm aware now. I need to start paying attention. I need to sacrifice something so I can have a little time each day to see what my children are watching. It wasn't you. It was a system that they created that led up to this. So don't ever blame yourself. Any of this. I get it. I've lived life. I've lived on my own most of my life. I've just been blessed by following hard times. Hey, I had great parents that take me back in until I get back on my feet again. It's those things that's important to remember. It's just those things to look back on. I mean, crap, there was a case. Some of you might think it's not so deep, but it's not. A 30-year-old man suing his parents because they tried to kick him out. I mean, for real. All the colorful words I want to say right now about that. It's like, for real. What the hell was you taught in school? What the hell was you taught in college? What has our system, education system, taught you to think that they can't kick you out? That you're going to freeload, take advantage of somebody's kindness? I'm sorry. And this, for any of the younger generation that's listening, wake up. Life isn't easy. There's nothing free in this world either. I don't know what they taught you. Don't abuse somebody's kindness, generosity. Don't think because, Obama wanted to make it so that parents were financially responsible and could claim their children up to the age of 26. Don't buy into a broken, corrupt system that is meant to manipulate, enslave, and indoctrinate you. Learn some self-respect, self-value, self-morals. Quit expecting that everything's going to be handed to you on a silver platter. Guess what? Life doesn't work that way. If the education system taught you that, maybe you should start questioning everything else you were taught. There's a reason why socialism fails every time. It's a system. You look at every socialist country that has fallen, what gets placed? Being even more stricter. Communism. But I guess they don't teach those aspects of history anymore when it comes to world history. Why? Because, it's racist. It's identity. It goes against identity. It's a blemish. All the other colorful labels they keep trying to obscure it with. And the fact is, it's part of our history. It's there so we don't keep repeating the same mistakes. It's there as a lesson to future generations. Me personally, I think we need a huge movement pushing for better education, improving our education system, removing the Common Core crap from our systems, finding a way to better reward teachers that truly put time, truly put their hearts and souls into educating children. It starts with better pay. It starts with not protecting the bad apples, removing those bad apples that are impeding our education system. It starts with realizing that many of our schools are so underfunded. And, and school systems need to also understand raising a levy, increasing school taxes isn't the answer. Hasn't worked up to this point, has it? Never works. It was a system designed to fail. Looks good on paper, sounds good in theory, but our reality and practicality, they failed. It's a designed to fail system. So we need to address it at the state level, federal level, demanding that they start bringing funding into our school system. Growing up, I had the privilege of going to public school. Also had the privilege of going to a private Catholic school. And there was a difference. Well, it was also a private Catholic school. It was in another country. So I got to see the difference of education. I got to see how in other countries, the real difference of private and public. Public schools, they didn't get taught. They were lucky when they graduated, they really do basic math. The private sector, though, private school, I was actually learning 2 years above the class I was in. You know, got to watch it when we came back to the United States. Sister went to a private school. Guess what? Very same thing. The private school was she was learning 2 years ahead of her class. Why is there such a difference between the private and public sector? Well, we all know the answer to that. Money. Back in the 90s, upper middle class could afford to send people to private schools. Today and age, not so much. So, it's more designed and catered for the rich. Once again, we see another part of a broken system. A system that's designed to, hey, we can actually properly use this term now. True identity. Not so much identity politics, but identity on the class and social levels. Those that they deem are above the rest because of not their education, not their morals or values, but because of their prestige of being from a wealthy family. We start delving into some of the inner city schools, which is downright scary. Way more goes on in them. There we end up seeing, violence on other aspects, student violence on teachers, major lack of funding. You see a system that's designed to, in a sense, really fail to keep social class to be treated lesser, so they don't excel or achieve, so they can't break that cycle and better themselves, since it's meant to trap. All these things go on. Only once in a blue moon do we talk about it. Our state of our education system is by far in shambles. It is a disaster. But yet we want to focus only on, oh, gun problem. No, there's a whole broader range that needs to be focused on. Because we are actually focusing on what needs to be fixed, probably have less of those events happening. And thankfully, they're rare as is. And we all understand that some people are just bad people and they're going to do bad things. You can't make an excuse for it. You can't blame it on anything else but that. Now, I want to touch on one more aspect. Might shock you. What's the danger of keep allowing this to continue? It goes back to what I once stated already in this video. We are dealing with our future generations, our future politicians, our future judges, police officers, our future educators, teachers. If they are being taught these very systems, they're being showed that this is the way. They've been indoctrinated to believe this type of education. What do you think they're going to do? It's their time to be in a position of power. Ask yourself, what is our Constitution going to look like 30, 40 years from now? Because in 30 and 40 years from now, we're going to see these generations that's being taught this Common Core system, broken school systems, passing laws where these 7, 8, 9-year-olds are being taught stuff about transgender and diversity. These are going to be the very ones that are going to try and rewrite our Constitution because they don't know what the Constitution, the history of it, because they weren't taught that. In fact, a lot of them are being taught, especially when it comes to Common Core, is many cases we see what the UN is trying to indoctrinate and push on every nation, which has no place in our country, has no place in our school systems. We're going to see a day where we're not even going to be allowed to homeschool. It's already been tried in other states like California and a few other places where they've tried to remove it completely. They haven't got rid of it all the way. They've made it so damn hard for you to homeschool your kids and teach them right. They've made it so damn hard for you to find a curriculum that is not Common Core. Because they don't want you to do that. Just like we've seen so many states push past laws to force you to vaccinate your children before they're even allowed in school. Thankfully, there's still a few states out there that can, use religion to get out of the vaccination thing. Yet you see so much more that they take more of your rights and freedoms. Oh, you don't get your child vaccinated, you make our school unsafe. Oh, right, yeah. What about all these cases I keep seeing? What about all the stuff Project Veritas brought up? You're telling me I'm going to make the school unsafe by not letting my child be vaccinated? When your whole system has failed time and time again? How your system won't pay teachers what they should be paid? Because we live in a day and age where, being a teacher, you're not going to be surviving on your own. You're not going to make ends meet. You're not going to be able to buy your house, new car. Granted, this varies from state to state. Some states actually pay their teachers a little bit better, but they're still underpaid. Let's talk about psychology. They like to use psychology as a weapon. That it's been proven better pay equals better results. Person that's getting paid good for something they love to do puts twice as much effort into it, much more time into it. And like I said, I don't want this coming off that I'm bashing teachers. Because far from it, I have a lot of respect for teachers. I just don't have no respect for the bad apples. I don't have respect for a broken system that's designed to fail our children. And I get tired of hearing, oh, our kids aren't safe in school because of guns. Oh, come to find out, they're really not safe in some of these schools because of some of the teachers. Those bad apples. They're really not safe because of the bad policies of teacher unions. I said, in theory, a lot of good things you could say about a union, but there's just that many more bad things you can point out that they, over time, still have not fixed. Refuse to fix. I mean, where do we, as a community, draw the line? This is what you got to ask yourself. Where, as a parent, are you going to draw the line, take a stand? How can we draw awareness to this? Like I said, in most cases now, it starts at the home. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I got a call coming in I got to take. I'm going to revisit this. There's more I want to say. And maybe I want to get a few people on to also express what they've seen. they want to talk about. So get more and more of other people's opinions on it. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoy. And I will see you guys on the next one.